I'm just going to go over a general overview and introduction to Storyboard That, digital storytelling, the creator, and some best practices. Since this is the first one, we had a lot of varying responses on the what do you want to learn today, and a lot of people put everything, which is great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about everything. So as you can see from this first page, these are cells from Storyboards. So what is a storyboard? So a storyboard is a graphic organizer that plans a narrative. It's great for visual representations of hard to digest concepts. It's been around since, I want to say, the 30s for movie making. And by having something that promotes linear thinking, by having the sequence of the passage of time, having it mapped out that way, it really helps people focus on one concept or one cell and how it fits into the bigger picture. So about us, we are actually 5 years old now. We just turned 5 years old really, really recently. We were originally created to address the issues that corporations faced, actually. So in business, the 4 C's are communication, critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity. And our CEO had this idea because he couldn't draw, and he wanted to communicate his ideas effectively, even though he couldn't draw effectively. So he created Storyboard That to address that specific challenge. And then he learned that it lended very well to the educational side of things, since they are also the 21st century learning skills, which, side note, is great since most of the people that work here are also from educator backgrounds. So that's pretty neat. So again, this is sort of a bird's eye level of things that we do here and what we do. So we provided an easy way for students to improve on 3 quantifiable levels. So as far as understanding, by giving this visual and interactive tool, we allow students to understand high-level concepts and overall language comprehension skills. And as far as organization, we allow that visual component so you can see what you're organizing right in front of you. So the actual tool itself acts as a thought organizer, and it's very easy to use, and it's highly adaptable. And I'll obviously go over the creator itself so you can see what that looks like. And as far as presentation skills, so students really learn how to effectively collaborate and communicate these thoughts, because the creator itself lends itself to presentations right on the platform and has a bunch of different ways to share the content. So again, another high concept reason of why it matters. So in today's evolving pedagogy, we are really trying to create something that's multidisciplinary, and we are actually web-based, so we can be used on anything with a browser. So we always get a lot of questions on, does this work on a Chromebook? Does this work on an iPad? It will work on anything with a browser, so that's pretty neat. So why this matters, again, is that it promotes student agency. So students are able to create and produce their own content, which is a much better and effective way of seeing how they understand something rather than having them just regurgitate information. So it moves them past a consumption of information towards active learning. And as far as differentiated learning, which I'll also show you a little bit of in an in-depth level, it allows for personalizing and customizing different teaching and learning methods so students can go at their own pace and on their own time. So, I mean, at the end of the day, students like it. They think it's really fun. We get a lot of great feedback about it since it's very easy to use and it's very, very customizable. So again, it's great if you talk to your students about it. So these are all of the features that come with Storyboard That, and these are actually all completely free, so always good. Teacher guides and articles are both aligned with Common Core. So teacher guides cover a wide variety of different things. So for ELA, for instance, it covers different works of literature. For history, it covers different events. We're adding constantly to it. We also just hired a special education teacher and a science teacher to work with us and adding content for those as well. And articles are more of a higher level concept like plot diagrams and narrative arcs. So integration, I'll go over this and where it's located in the creator, but Photos for Class is a student-safe, friendly search that pulls from Flickr and the Library of Congress and the British Royal Archives and a whole bunch of different other sources. quick rubric is as it sounds like. It's a rubric creator. Again, it's cross-platform friendly, can be used on anything with a browser, and there's tons of ways to share once the student is ready to do that. So going through best practices before I actually go through the creator and kind of show you where you would find all of this. So for differentiated learning, we got a lot of questions about it, and our main responses to those are you can use templates as a launching point. You can use lesson plans as inspiration or as a reference point. We also have story starters for people who use Storyboard that for creative writing. And basically all it comes down to is scaffolding. So you can use Storyboard that to deliver the same material to different students and still assess their different learning styles and abilities. So for instance, you can have a student create a plot diagram, or you can have them create a simplified plot diagram just based on what level they're at. And again, as far as engagement, all the good things in which they're actually creating their content rather than just sitting and listening to something and regurgitating it. The teachers that use Storyboard that, they have reported that their students have a higher learning retention rate because of the visual association. Again, because it's a creator itself, it's very good for hands-on learning, and actually students tend to figure out the creator a lot faster than the teachers or than even us. So the Storyboard Creator I'll go over right now. So this is the teacher dashboard, and I'll go over it very, very briefly just because we get a ton of questions about this as well. So this is a landing page, and it's where you're going to spend most of your time as a teacher with organization stuff. So it's your homepage, basically. At the top of the screen is your sign-up info. It's how you would add students to your class, or rather how they would add themselves. Classes are listed here, so it's all the classes that you've created. Similarly, assignments will also be there, and it'll be all the assignments that you've created. And if you scroll down, you'll have recent storyboards created from your students on your account. And if you go down even further, you'll have a featured activity, which just rotates every time you sign on, which is pretty neat. So a quick overview of how to add students. So if you go on your management configuration settings and you go to manage users, if your students are over the age of 13, or if they sign on through single sign-on through Google Plus or Office 366, they can use this link. And then they'll see this here, and they'll just click I'm a new user, and then they'll register either through here or through the single sign-on, and then they'll be taken to a screen where they'll be asked to enter in this information. And what's important here is that you give the students this link specifically. And if your students are under the age of 13, or if you would prefer to just add them yourselves, you can scroll down and quickly add a user here. So these are just my fake student accounts that I've added. So you can see it's pretty straightforward, and that's the full list of it. And then for classes, you would just go to Manage Classes. Similarly, very intuitive, you add a class name, you add a class password. Students can add themselves to the class through their dashboard, or you can add them yourself. If you go to Manage over here next to the class that you want to add or edit students from, you would just go and you would see that there's a list of students. So the members of the class are on the left, and the students that you haven't added are on the right. So if you want to add any of these students or any amount of these students, you can select however many, move them over, and just click Update Users. And then same idea for assignments. If you want to add an assignment, you go to Manage Assignments, and you would add in an assignment here. And if you want to add it to a class, you would just go to View/Manage next to the assignment in question, and you just check mark each of the classes that you want to add it to, and you can add it to multiple classes if you have multiple classes. And finally, the security settings. So because of FERPA and COPA laws, we are by default this option, default to private. But you can, of course, change it so that it's shared between your students in the class, or if you want to share it with other people, for instance, you would just change it here. So to view your students' storyboards, you go to Storyboard Explorer. You can go by class, by assignment, by user, or you can view all of them at once. And then finally, if you haven't taken a look at them, you can also find the teacher guides and lesson plans here. So this is something that we're constantly updating and adding to. And if you take a look at it, this is the link and this is what it opens. You can see that it covers a whole bunch of different subjects. And as I mentioned, we are constantly updating that. So for instance, this would be like the high school ELA reference teacher guides. So if you go into any of them, they'll basically be laid out similarly, and it'll have a bunch of different lesson plans and student activities. So here you can see that it references the grade level, the difficulty level, and the Common Core standards. And if you just go down, you can see the examples of how Storyboard that is integrated into a particular work of literature, or if you're in something else, a different subject area. So this is the Storyboard Creator itself. You can see that since I've had it open, it has already harassed me to save my storyboard, which is pretty nice since we added an autosave feature. So this is the basic layout. This is the 3-cell. So you would have all of your layout options on the bottom down here. You would have all of your content options up here. So with the layout, if you want to change it so that the cell has a title and description, you can add it here. If you're a social studies teacher, for instance, and you want to use the timeline instead, you can select it here. If you are teaching film, 16:9, etc. For now, I'm just going to stick with the traditional 3-cell storyboard. If you want to add more cells, you go into add cells and you can add however many you want. You can continue adding rows and columns up to 100, and you can update it that way. This is also how you would remove cells, so going back down to 3. So again, everything up here is the content that we have in the creator itself, so everything is drag and drop. So I'm just going to drag and drop some content into here. It'll automatically resize it. So you can see that you can change different colors and different visual components of the scene, but one of the nice things that we recently added is a smart scene. So if you go into edit scene, you can change different components like the time of day. You can have it so the city's not there. You can change the windows so that they're see-through. You can change the weather. So I'm going to update that. The nice thing about scenes with windows is that if there's an option to make it see-through or transparent, you can actually put another scene behind there. So I'm just going to go to home indoor. And I'm going to just drag in this bedroom back here, and it'll automatically populate there. So a little more in-depth, characters are the same thing. So if you drag in a character here, you can change this character's coloring. So I'm going to change the hair, the skin color, the eyes, and you can keep going. So if you're in a rush, you can go to edit pose, and there are instant poses down here. But if you want to fully customize it, you can change it so that she's facing the side, for instance. You can tilt the head any way you want. You can change the facial expression. You can pose the arms and legs. So I'm just going to change it so she's facing the side. And another really quick tip that people ask about is if she's facing the right side right now, if you want her to face the left, you just go into rotate and you would flip her. So now I'm going to put her inside the bedroom, which is a feature of layering. So I would just go to layers, go to send back, or I guess I would go start from the front and then I would go send backwards, and I would keep sending it backwards until she's inside. So now she's inside the bedroom, and that's how you do some basic layering. You can add other characters. So if I want to have, this is my little character, if I want to have my person sitting on the ledge being upset that it's snowing in April because we're in Boston, I can change it so she's looking up at the snow and deeply upset and sitting down. Update that. Just have her on the ledge there. And now you have one person that's sitting on the outside and one person that's inside. A really quick best practice tip is if you want to resize an object or a character, if you just hit shift and up or down, it can change it proportionally. That's a really quick way to do that. So textables are, as it sounds like, they're text bubbles, thought bubbles. There's some fun ones in comics, signs, and artistic ones. So if I want to lament about the fact that it's cold, I'm just going to put in a speech bubble here. And you can change things like the text, you can change things like the colors. So I'm just going to type in, which is a real thing that I wish, and that's what my character will say. So for more in-depth things, like for perspectives, if you want, for instance, a character in this scene to be in the foreground and versus the background, you can drag this person in here, resize him so he's just standing outside of the building. And then if I want this person to be in the foreground, I'm going to edit pose. I'm going to have it so he's facing backwards. Tilt the head a little, click update. And then from here, you can crop it. So I would only want the head and shoulders in view here. So I'm going to crop that. And then I'm just going to resize it. So now it looks like he is in the foreground of the scene facing our other character. And if you want to take it a step further in the creator, you can actually do different things like with the filters, you can have it so that it's soft focused on something. So if you want it to be focused on this person specifically on the ledge, you can have everything else be soft focus. So now it's just this character in focus. And if you want to do a close-up of a scene, you can just copy the scene. So copy cells, I'm going to copy this entire scene. You click where you want to copy it from, you click where you want to copy it to, click done. And then you would just crop the area that you want it to focus on. So I'm just going to have it focused on the windows. I'm going to click crop. And then to change it so it's filling the entire thing, I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to go to stretch to fill. This as well. So I'm going to focus on this little corner of the bed. So I'm going to crop that corner. Crop that. Edit, stretch to fill. So now I'm going to get rid of my little person. And you just have to put this person back in the window. So you would layer, send backwards, layer, send backwards. Because there's multiple layers now, you might have to do it a few times. Actually, I'm just going to send to back and then bring it forward one. So now she's there. I'm going to resize her so she's bigger. And then I'm going to crop part of her out. And now it looks like a close-up scene. So that's kind of a quick overview of that. Shapes up here are shapes. There's not that much to say about them. Web and technology, there's social media buttons. There's also wireframes. It's really good for cybersecurity boards. You can upload your own images here. So it's pretty simple. You just select or drag and drop images in. So for instance, I'm just going to select this random image on my computer. You can just drag it in that way. And then finally, Photos for Class is integrated here. So if you search for something, it will pull from all those sources that I mentioned. And if you pull that down here, you can see that it automatically cites it down here, which is really important. And if you want this picture to be full screen, you just edit and you stretch to fill. And then you would just bring it to the front, and that's how you would do that. So that's a quick overview of the creator and different things that you can do with that. I'm going to save it, and here you can save it into different assignments. If it's supposed to go in one of these assignments, you can title it whatever you want it to be, and you can save it. So a really quick feature that once you save it, you'll see up here that this says the storyboard can only be viewed by you and your teacher. So if you want this to be something that your students can save on top of, like a template, you just have to scroll down and click Convert Storyboard to Template. And that should change it so that the text now is red, and now it will be in each student's assignment folder, and they can save their own copy on top of that. And then for each of the storyboards, you will see that there are a bunch of ways to share it. So there's an in-browser slideshow feature. So you can just do the slideshow from inside there. We get a lot of questions about Google Classroom and Google integration. So you can export it from here. You can export it as a PowerPoint and then upload it in the Google Drive. You can also export it as images. You can export it to social media, or you can export it as PDF. There are a bunch of ways to print it. So if you want the storyboard to be printed, a lot of teachers like having them up in their classroom as posters. So there's the different layout options for that. And then finally, as a teacher, if you want to view your students' progress, you can go into View Save History, which I just saved this one, so there's not much there. But if you go into one of my other storyboards, if you go into View Save History, this is just one of my cheesy science boards, since we also get a lot of requests for science storyboards. So if you go to view history, you can see all the different revisions and the progress that a student is making on a certain storyboard, which is always neat to have. And you can also see the autosaves, which is something that I mentioned earlier. So that's a quick overview of best practices for the Storyboard Creator. And now this is a quote from one of our main advocates. Her name is Selene, and she is one of Rochelle Potts' students, and she's great. This is one of her Spanish storyboards that she made down there. But basically, what I would suggest, if you haven't already, is trying out the 14-day free trial and just seeing how your students play with it and see how they sort of embrace it. And just a few questions that were submitted that I'm going to answer. So as far as the recent updates, we added the autosave feature. We updated a lot of our art, so we changed the characters so that they're more proportional and realistic. We updated the Storyboard Creator itself. If you've seen it before, you kind of see how it's changed to what it looks like now. We also have the feature to move and copy cells, and I'm not sure if it's someone as part of this session, but we do allow 4 different languages. You just have to select it in your dashboard options. So that's kind of a quick overview of everything. And if you have any questions, type them in the chat and I'll address them. So as you're asking or thinking of things to ask, I'm going to pull up the teacher guide since, again, it's a good launching point. So for language selection, so if you want to change your Storyboard Creator options so that it includes different languages, you just go to Management Configuration, Storyboard Creator options, and then you would just click the box to enable the different languages. There are also lesson plans for Spanish right now, and just gonna keep scrolling. So these are Spanish teacher guides, for instance. And if you scroll down to the bottom of any page, you can find, theoretically, you can find the teacher guides. So if I'm going to our main site, and I scroll down all the way, so if I just log off and I'm just on the main website, if I scroll down all the way and I want to select a different language, you can just select these. So I'm just going to change it to French, for instance. So now the website is in French. So one of the other questions that I think I already slightly talked about is Google integration. So if you want it as part of your Google Slides, if you go to any of your storyboards, actually I just locked myself out, but if you go to any of your storyboards, you have the option of exporting it as a PowerPoint. So that's kind of the best way to do that. Just bear with me as I do this in French. Good thing I speak French. Okay, so if I go to any of these storyboards and I want to export it, it would be here. Probably should have changed it back to English, but this is the option to export it as PowerPoint. So you would just save it, and then you would upload it to Google Slides or Drive. I'm gonna log off and change it back from French real quick. So since we have a few minutes left, I'm going to go back to the teacher guide since, again, that's just such a good launching point. So if you scroll down all the way on the main site, you can actually just go straight to there. So I was just in high school ELA, so I'll go to history. We have recently added a few things to this, so I'm just going to go into primary and secondary sources because that's one of our newest teacher guides. So here's the lesson plan reference, and it'll go over the summary of what it's trying to teach. It'll give you the activity itself. And then if you're looking to have students fill out a blank storyboard or storyboard template, you can find them in any of the ELA pages. So if I just go to high school ELA, if I go down, there are your lesson plans and graphic organizers. So if you want your students to just create a plot diagram, for instance, you can go into here and it'll give you different examples of these plot diagrams. But then if you go down further, you can use these as templates so that students can just create their own content from them. If anyone has any more questions, now is the greatest time to ask me. And also, if you would like to see other features or if you would like other things covered in these webinars, we would love the feedback since this is definitely a new thing that we're doing. We will send you an email after this, and if you could give us some feedback, that would be awesome. And that's it for me. So thanks for joining me. And we are going to put in a coupon for a discount for you guys sitting through this first ever webinar with me. Hope it wasn't too awkward. Okay, so also in response to that one question, for customer care, I just logged into my teacher account and you can see that there is a chat desk. So this is available during our office hours, which are 8:30 to 5:30 Eastern time.